Okay, let me ask you a couple of questions. What color is the number 7? And what does the name Derek taste like? Now, I know for most of us, those questions sound completely absurd, right? But for some people, they're not just normal questions, they're the key to understanding this incredibly fascinating phenomenon of the human mind called synesthesia. For some people, a statement like this isn't some kind of poetic metaphor. Nope, it's their actual everyday reality. It's a sensory experience that's just as real, just as automatic as your eye looking up and seeing that the sky is blue. Just try to imagine this for a second. What if, when you heard a symphony, you didn't just hear it, you saw an explosion of color? Or what if you felt a touch on your own arm just by watching someone else get touched? Well, that's the world we're diving into. That's the world of the synesthete. And let's be super clear about something right up front. This is not just a vivid imagination. Neuroscientists have actually confirmed it. Synesthesia is a real, measurable neurological thing. And it's really important to know it's not a disorder. It's simply a different way that a brain can be wired up to perceive the world. Okay, so how many people actually live in this world of blended senses? Well, the answer, it's probably a lot more common than you think. Yeah, this number might actually surprise you. We're talking about 4.4% of the population. That's more than 1 in every 25 people. So the chances are pretty high that you actually know someone who experiences the world this way, even if they've never talked about it. But here's the thing, synesthesia isn't just one single experience. Oh no, it's this huge, wild spectrum from the more common types to the incredibly rare. So let's dive in and explore some of that amazing diversity. All right, so some of the most common forms you'll hear about. First up is grapheme color synesthesia. This is kind of the classic example, where letters or numbers have their own specific, unique colors. Then you've got chromesthesia. That's where sounds, like music, actually create a whole visual landscape. And then there's spatial sequence, which is wild. It's where someone might literally see the months of the year laid out in a physical circle around their body. But trust me, it gets way, way more complex. Just look at this. You have mirror touch synesthetes who literally feel what they see other people feeling. Then there's auditory tactile, where a specific sound can cause a real physical sensation, like pressure or even pain. And how about this one? Ticker tape, where spoken words are automatically seen as subtitles, just scrolling by in space. Incredible, right? And this really shows you just how specific and detailed these experiences are. We're not talking about some vague hint of sweetness here. For someone with lexical gustatory synesthesia, where words have tastes, a certain word might trigger the super distinct, complex taste of minced beef. I mean, wow. So this all begs a huge question, right? How? How does this even happen? What is going on inside the brain that allows for these incredible cross-sensory experiences? Well, the science is starting to give us some really fascinating clues. Okay, so one of the leading theories here is, honestly, it's just mind-blowing. It basically suggests that every single one of us might be born a synesthete. See, infant brains are this crazy, chaotic web of hyperconnectivity between all the sensory regions. As we grow up, our brain prunes or cuts away the connections it's not using. But the idea is that in synesthetes, some kind of genetic factor means less of that pruning happens, leaving those extra cross-sensory links intact for life. Right now, scientists have two main models for how this wiring works. On one hand, you've got the crossed wires model. This pretty much suggests what it sounds like, that brain areas right next to each other, like the area for recognizing letters and the area for seeing color, are literally cross-wired and fire off together. But then there's the faulty gatekeeper model, which proposes something else entirely. It says we all have these connections, but in most of us, there's a gatekeeper system that blocks the signals. In synesthetes, that gatekeeper is just, a little more relaxed and lets the signals through. So this unique wiring, it's not just some cool party trick. Turns out, research suggests it comes with some very real advantages, especially when it comes to creativity. Which kind of makes you wonder, is synesthesia a type of superpower? Okay, get this. People with synesthesia are 8 times more likely to work in a creative profession than the general population. 8 times. That is just a staggering correlation. It really points to a deep, powerful link between this blended perception and creativity.
And you see this in action with so many artists. Take Pharrell Williams, for example. He actually describes his music in terms of color. So for him, a song isn't just something you hear, it's a whole visual painting. He said that his song Happy looks like a mix of yellow and red, and as the harmonies build, they create these blended shades. How cool is that?
And then there's the singer Lorde. For her, synesthesia can literally have veto power over her own art. She's talked about how she almost scrapped her song Tennis Court because the sound of it was this oppressive textured tan that just felt awful. She only finished the track after adding a new part that changed the color to what she called incredible greens. Her senses were literally dictating the final product.
And it's not just about creativity. There's also a pretty significant memory boost. It comes from a concept called dual coding. Think about it. When a synesthete learns a phone number, they are just storing the digits. They're also storing a sequence of colors. This creates more than one tag on the memory, more pathways for the brain to find it later. It's like having a built-in memory trick for everything.
Okay, but here's where this gets really personal. Because even if you're sitting there thinking, well, I don't taste words or see music, the truth is, the underlying wiring for synesthesia might just be humming away inside your brain too. All right, I want you to play along with me here. Take a look at these two shapes on your screen. One of them is named Booba, and the other is named Kiki. Go ahead. Which one is which? Just go with your gut. Okay, got your answer? Well, if you're like 95% of people, and this has been tested across tons of different cultures and languages, you said the rounded, blobby shape is Booba, and the sharp, spiky one is Kiki. So why? It's because our brains universally make a connection between sound and shape. Booba sounds round. The word feels round in your mouth. Kiki sounds sharp and pointy. That right there, that's a synesthetic-like connection that pretty much every human brain shares.
So what this really shows us is that synesthesia isn't some weird anomaly. It actually exists on a spectrum. It's just a more amplified version of the cross-sensory connections that all of our brains are using all the time, just to make sense of the world around us.
And that leaves us with a pretty profound final thought to chew on. If the boundaries between our senses are this flexible, this interconnected, then what does that say about the nature of reality itself? Maybe what we call objective reality is really just a very convincing story that our brains agree on, a story filtered through the unique wiring of each and every one of us. So it makes you wonder, what does your reality taste like?